Hey, I'm Chase with Sherpa Equipment Company. Today we're going to be installing a Matterhorn rack on a 3rd Gen 4Runner. First things first, we're going to be taking a T25 and uninstalling the end caps on the roof rails. One thing you want to be careful about is these bolts. They can be old and brittle and it's very easy to strip them out when you're taking them out. It's also helpful to have a small flathead screwdriver to kind of work the old plastic tabs out of the roof rails. You just kind of got to be real gentle with it and they should come out without too much fighting. The next step is we're going to remove all the crossbars from the rails, which you just have to loosen each end and then kind of wiggle these out as well. Should come right out. And then on all the bottoms of these crossbars, they're track nuts that need to be removed from the screw, and they will be used again installing your rack. Alright, once you have all the crossbars removed, you can go ahead and slide all of your track nuts back in, and there should be 5 on each side. Once you got all 5 of your track nuts back in, you can go ahead and grab your stock roof rail and put it back in the middle, and that will give some rigidity to your roof tracks. When you're reinstalling the end caps on your roof tracks, it's a good idea to put a dab of silicone on the bolt just to reseal everything and make sure it stays put. Now that everything's put back together on the top of the truck, we're going to hop down and assemble the mounting feet. So once you get your package, you're going to bust out the mounting feet and then the main hardware package here. One thing you'll notice is that you'll have a separate package with other hardware in it. You might have 1 or 2 of these. This could be for your fairing, or if you have any other accessories that you ordered along with it, they will be separately packaged. And here, so we'll have our front feet here, and you can identify these with the rubber feet on them. And then you'll have your middles and rears. They're all labeled with an R, but these are middles and rears. So if you have a black hardware upgrade, or your rack is black, you'll easily be able to tell the mounting feet hardware because it will be silver. And then if you have a silver rack, or same with the black rack, you're going to have 2 different size bolts in here. You're going to have your M6 by 16 bolt and M6 washer. And then you're also going to have your 1/4 inch by 20 by 5/8 bolt and your 1/4 inch washer and 1/4 inch T-nut. We're going to pull out 2 of the crossbars, which we are going to use to start mounting the rear feet for the rack. So we recommend installing your feet to your crossbars before putting them on the vehicle because it just makes it a lot easier. It's a lot easier to work with. So next we're going to put the T-nuts in the slots, and you want to put the round end down, and then you give it a little push until it sits flat between the rails. And one thing to note, you're going to want the Z to be facing towards the outside of the crossbar, and you're also going to want to leave the bolts loose so you can adjust them while you're installing. And you're going to repeat this step for the rest of your rear feet. Okay, now that we have the mounting feet installed on the crossbars, we're going to take our M6 bolts and our M6 washers and install them on the truck. Now we're going to be using the same track nuts that we took off of the factory crossbars to be mounting the new mounting feet for our new crossbars onto the roof track. So now that we got it lined up, we'll be using the M6 hardware and threading it down into the stock track nuts. And we're just going to leave it nice and loose so we can adjust it as we need. So we have everything threaded here, but as you can see, everything's loose and adjustable. That'll make our lives easier when putting the side plates on. So next we're going to be putting the side plates on the rack, and for that we're going to need our 1/4 20 by 1 bolts. And for this, it will make your life a lot easier if you can grab somebody to help you hold them on for the install. So now that we have the side plate up next to the truck, we're going to find our shorter tracks, and that will be where we mount our first bolts to the crossbar. And then you're going to repeat the same process for the other side. For our front mounting feet, we're going to need our 1/4 by 1 inch hex bolt, 2 black washers, and our 1/4 nylock. For the front feet, you're going to use your remaining silver hardware to mount them to the crossbars. And if you had silver hardware with your rack, these again are just going to be your 5/8 bolts and washers and T-nuts. To assemble, we're going to take our bolt, thread it through, a washer on either side, and then our nylock. We're going to also pre-tighten these a little bit just so they're not as hard to tighten when they're on the roof of the vehicle. Okay, now that we've gotten these pre-tightened a little bit, we're going to go ahead and mount the feet on the skinny edge of the crossbar. And you're going to want to leave these loose too, because these will be moved later on. So now we're going to put this up on the truck. This is another good step to have your buddy give you a hand to install it onto the side plate. This front crossbar will be mounted through this vertical slot here on the side plate. And for this crossbar, you can go ahead and tighten these ones all the way down. Okay, so the next step is we're going to use a tape measure to get it all squared away up on top of the truck. So to get it centered, we usually measure from the inside side of the side plate to the tip of the mounting foot. So once you get these squared away and even on both sides, you can go ahead and tighten down the mounting foot to the crossbar. You're not going to want to tighten down to the top of the truck yet, so we can still move it back and forward. And again, these just need to be snug, no need to over tighten them.
And again, yeah, you're just
5 minutes. Once you've got your crossbar centered, you can go ahead and tighten down the bolts on the outside of the side plate. Now we're going to go ahead and move it, adjust it forward and backwards to make the profile line up with the profile of the rack. Again, these just need to be snug. You don't need to go too crazy on tightening them down. Okay. For the next step, we recommend using a microfiber cloth or rag so you don't scratch any of the paint on your roof of the rack. And then you're going to want to lift up on the rack and wedge it up under to make it easier for the next step for the front mounting feet. So now we're going to tighten down the adjustable foot onto the mounting foot. And for this, you're going to want to keep pressure down on the mounting foot to keep this height off of the top of the roof. And you're going to want to tighten these down nice and snug. So for this part of the install, it is pretty tedious, but you want to just take your time and make sure there is a good amount of pressure pressing down from the rack onto the roof. Now that we've got good down pressure on the roof, we can go ahead and tighten the rest of the mounting foot up to the crossbar. And if you do have problems on this install, we do know it can be kind of a pain in the butt, but feel free to give us a call if you have any questions or need any help. So once that's all tightened up, we can go ahead and remove the microfiber cloth. If you've installed this correctly, it should be nice and tight up front, and you should be able to pretty much move your whole truck. And next step, we'll install the fairing and the rest of the crossbars. So next, we're going to pull out another crossbar. We're going to install the fairing next. So you come back to your hardware pack, take the remaining hardware out, which will be enough for the fairing. Pull the T-nuts first, and you can kind of line it up to where they're going to be on the crossbar by setting your fairing next to it. And then once you have all your T-nuts installed in the crossbar, you can go ahead and set your fairing up here, and you should be able to go ahead and thread them right down into it onto the crossbar. One thing to note is that once you start installing these, you'll still be able to slide your fairing along the crossbar to find your T-nuts. Okay, now that they're all loosely installed, we can go ahead and center the fairing on the crossbar. Now that it's flush on either end and centered, we can go ahead and tighten down all of the bolts. Again, no need to go crazy on tightening, just make sure they're all nice and snug. And now we're going to put it up on the rack, and this is another good step. It would help to have a buddy give you a hand. And one other thing, this is going to be the same whether you have a full fairing or a half fairing. So we have some adjustable tracks here that when you install your fairing you can adjust it for if you have some wind noise or if you have any vibration problems, you can adjust your fairing to fix that. We usually recommend that you leave it about 1/8 of an inch off of the roof line itself to protect your paint and to reduce noise. Once you have it lined up, you can go ahead and tighten them down. So now that we got the fairing installed and on the truck, we're going to go ahead and take the remaining amount of crossbars you have and set them up in any orientation on the truck that best suits your needs. So once you got the remaining crossbars up in the rack, you can go ahead and tighten them all down, starting from the rear going forward. And it's a good idea to just check all of your hardware and make sure everything's snug down before you hit the road. Now that we got everything buttoned up top there, it's a good idea to, after about 100-150 miles or so, come back and just check all your hardware, make sure nothing rattled loose. And then also if you have any problems or questions during the install, feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email. And now you can adventure with confidence and enjoy our wreck.